Today we're going to talk about who was popping for the Chiefs in the Week 2 preseason game versus the Detroit Lions. And then it's that time of the year again. I'm going to make my regular season prediction for the Chiefs in 2024. So starting with who was popping. And this is just coming from looking at the game, watching the game multiple times. These are the players who I saw that really stood out. And to me, they kind of popped on film. You could really see the explosiveness, and these players looked like they're going to be contributors for the Chiefs in 2024. Some of them popped more than others. Some of them were established players, but the first player I want to talk about is everyone's favorite, Carson Steele. This guy has good burst. He's got good power. He's strong. When you watch him out there on the field, he looks the part of an NFL player. So I think Carson Steele is going to make this roster. I think he's going to have an impact for the Chiefs in 2024. And what a find by Brett Veach and company. Number 2, this player is not a rookie. They had some run last year. Chamari Connor. Connor out there looked like one of the most solid tacklers of all the Chiefs defenders throughout the entire game. And obviously, many of the Chiefs starters weren't getting played, after the first series. But Chamari Connor stayed in throughout, I think, a couple quarters. And man, did he look like a solid defensive player. I think he's going to have a very good role with the Chiefs in 2024. He's going to expand upon what he did in 2023. This has been kind of another under-the-radar signing or another under-the-radar draft pick by Brett Veach in the secondary that's really playing out. And I think Chamari Connor's headed for a bright future in Kansas City. Next, I want to say that Jaden Hicks was popping on film versus the Lions. And you watch him, and he's just a very large man to be playing safety in the NFL, and he can move, too. There were several times where he made a tackle in open space, and you're like, okay, that was a pretty dang good tackle versus a running back or wide receiver. He did not look like he was lost out there, so I think Jaden Hicks also is going to have a role for this Chiefs defense. It'll be different than many of the other players they have in the secondary. I see him being more of like the Justin Reed type, but having him play more of a downhill role. I think, Jaden Hicks' strength is getting downhill and making a tackle. So that fits in perfectly with Spagnuolo's defense. That's what he likes to run. So I see Jaden Hicks having a pretty good role. The next player, and this player might have popped more than all the others, Kingsley Suamataia. I can finally pronounce his name right. I've been practicing. Man, did this guy look good, both during the game and then also if you go back and look at his film, there were times where he was utilizing his power and just basically blowing defensive ends off their feet, and he was doing this in the run game a lot. So we already know whenever he came into the draft, he was touted as a really good pass protector. But his run blocking has been awesome too. So Kingsley Suamataia definitely was popping in this Week 2 game versus the Lions. I'm excited to see him protecting Mahomes' blind side. And what a relief it is for Chiefs fans to know that they've got a player, a rookie left tackle, can save a ton of money against the cap. That's going to help this team for years to come. They're going to be able to save a huge amount of money on a position that usually costs, the second or third most on the entire team. So Kingsley Suamataia, huge good news for the Chiefs, and he's really looking the part of being a starting left tackle in the NFL, and not just a starting left tackle, but a good one. Of course, the competition versus the Lions was not as stout as he'll see. It wasn't like he was facing Max Crosby out there or one of the Bosa brothers, but he's looked good. The next player who I felt like was popping, rookie player, wide receiver, Xavier Worthy. I'm still concerned about his size, but I'm less concerned about it probably than most people. I thought he looked really good catching the ball, seeing it into his hands. On the Carson Wentz touchdown, the catch wasn't 100% clean, but hey, he still caught it, which is better than a lot of the Chiefs wide receivers could have said last year at the start of the season. So I think that Xavier Worthy is going to be a weapon for this Chiefs offense starting from day one. They're going to put him in positions to succeed. I really like the way that they're cutting him diagonally across the field, especially in man-to-man situations, because then that means that there's going to be a player that has to run with him for 50 yards, and don't think it's going to go very well for the opposing defense if they have to run around with Xavier Worthy for that long. And I thought that, he had that nice catch down the field on the left hash, wide open, and then once again was wide open on the touchdown pass from Carson Wentz. So he's getting open, and he's using his speed, and it was apparent in the Lions game that, they weren't necessarily jamming him. They weren't necessarily playing super physical with him. And I would be curious to see how he does against a defense that wants to play that bump and run, wants to do a little bit of jamming at the line of scrimmage. I think that if you're going to do that versus Xavier Worthy, you're kind of playing with fire, because one of these times he's going to get loose. And if he gets loose, it's going to be a problem for the opposing defense. So Xavier Worthy, I thought, was popping on film. He looked like a solid NFL wide receiver. And then lastly, Rashee Rice caught a few balls. And every time he catches the ball, he just zips and gets downfield. He was popping on tape for me. Awesome hands, sees it into his body, good catch point, all of that stuff. He just looks like such a legitimate wide receiver out there when he catches the ball. And then once he catches the ball, he's no nonsense. And I love that about Rashee Rice. Just get downfield and don't wait around for defense to catch up to you. Just get downfield. You don't need to make a juke. Just get 5 or 6 yards. Get downfield as fast as you can. And that's what I love about Rashee Rice's game. No nonsense. But speaking of Rashee Rice, I had someone in the comments mention his suspension, had some questions about it. And I wanted to give an update on that. So it looks like Rashee Rice, it looks like the NFL is going to let the legal system do its thing. They're not going to issue a suspension, and they're going to wait until the legal system proves whether he is guilty or innocent. And everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So the NFL is following that model. And I still believe Rashee Rice, when all is said and done, if he's convicted, if he's guilty, then he will see a 4-game suspension. Still think it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere around there. And my worry is that it looks like the court proceedings are going to end in December at some point in time. And I would be worried that after that decision is made, after the ruling is made, he'll get suspended after that. So instead of being suspended the first 4 games of the year, he'll be suspended 4 games starting in December at the end of the year. So that's my concern there. I still think that, he's going to be suspended, but it looks like the NFL is shifting from wanting to suspend him early on in the year to waiting for the court process to rule itself out, to go through, all the proper channels, and then they're going to issue the suspension. And, I want to say props to the NFL for doing this, because you are innocent until proven guilty in this country. And while the NFL has, the power of judge, jury, and executioner, they still, have done a good job in recent years of being patient with these things. And, I've said over and over again that I want Rashee Rice to learn his lesson from this and never do a situation like that again. And I think the suspension is imminent. But it looks like the NFL is going to wait at this point in time until legal proceedings go through. So that's where it appears to be at this point in time. That can always change, though. But right now, I think we're probably looking at either a suspension towards the end of the year or a suspension starting next season, which is crazy. I mean, it's crazy. We all saw what happened, and it just is amazing how slow these things can go whenever sometimes you want swift justice. We still have our court system in the United States, and it's a good system to try to protect people who may have been wrongly accused. So that's my take on his suspension. It's going to be either at the end of this year or start of next year. But anything can happen between now and then. You never know what the NFL is going to do. But right now, it looks like they're going to wait. So moving on to my regular season prediction. Last year, I did not do so hot. I picked the Chiefs to go 13-4. They ended up going 11-6. And that was my worst year predicting the Chiefs record in the, I think, 7, 8, or 9 years I've been doing this. And every year I've either had it right on or I've been one game off. This was the first time I was 2 games off. And it was a down year for the Chiefs, so a lot of unexpected things happened. But I have a method for how I make the Chiefs prediction, and I basically go through all the teams that the Chiefs will play in their upcoming season, and then I decide whether or not that team will be a lock to make the playoffs, whether they have a chance to make the playoffs, they're a maybe, or whether or not I do not think that team will make the playoffs. So yes, they make the playoffs. Maybe they make the playoffs. No, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I then take all the years past for the Chiefs to see how they've done versus playoff teams and non-playoff teams. So in Mahomes' career, the Chiefs are 54-7 in games versus teams that did not make the playoffs that year. 54-7. That's pretty good against the lower end of competition. He has dominated teams that didn't make the playoffs. On the other hand, teams that did make the playoffs, he has 20-15 versus those teams. So not quite as good, still a winning record. And last year was bad for Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs went 1-4 in games versus playoff teams last season until they made the playoffs. Then they went 4-0. So they turned it on when the time was right. But I think the Chiefs are going to be motivated this year to do well. They're going to be motivated to improve upon their lackluster performance last season. There were times last season where they just did not look good. So I don't think they're going to come out and rest on their laurels. I think they're going to come out and think to themselves, we were terrible last year, and we got to get better. And that's a scary thing for the rest of the NFL. The team that won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row has a ton of things to work on, and they're motivated. This is scary. This is very scary for the rest of the NFL. So I'm going to go through the Chiefs' schedule, game 1 through 17, and just kind of say whether or not I think the Chiefs will win or lose that game, and I'll say whether or not I think this team will make the playoffs. So starting with Baltimore, first game of the season, I think Baltimore's a lock to make the playoffs. I also think the Chiefs are going to come out really strong to start 2024. I've been seeing a lot of good things in camp and in preseason, and I feel like they're going to be ready to go to start the season. So I'm picking the Chiefs to beat Baltimore in the season opener on Thursday night. The week after that, they go to Cincinnati. Cincinnati comes to Kansas City. They play Cincinnati. And I do believe the Bengals are going to bounce back. Joe Burrow is going to stay healthy, and they are going to make the playoffs in 2024. I also think the Chiefs are going to win this game. I think there's going to be some bad blood there. They got pretty sick and tired of, the Bengals players calling Arrowhead Burrowhead. There's some of that lingering. Chiefs win. Next game versus the Atlanta Falcons. And I think the Falcons could potentially make the playoffs. I have them as a maybe. With Kirk Cousins at quarterback, I think that there's a chance they could win that division. They've got some competition versus Tampa Bay. I don't really think the Saints are going to be a strong competition, but Tampa Bay will be. And it's really a toss-up between Atlanta and Tampa Bay. But I'm taking Atlanta to win the NFC South. And I'm also picking the Chiefs to win this game versus the Falcons. Moving up to the Los Angeles Chargers, I have them as a maybe making the playoffs. Many of you will be like, no way they can make the playoffs. They sold all their wide receivers off. They lost a lot of talent. And I think that's a good argument to be had. But I'm putting my faith in Coach Harbaugh. I think he's going to be a good head coach in Los Angeles. He already proved it in San Francisco. He proved it at Michigan. Great head coach. I have them as maybe making the playoffs. And I'm picking the Chiefs to win this game, though, in L.A. Next, you have the New Orleans Saints. I do not think the Saints are going to make the playoffs. I have the Chiefs winning this game. So the Chiefs are going to start the season 5-0, which would be incredible given how difficult their first 2 games are. Moving on, they go to San Francisco. San Francisco will be a playoff team, and I think this is where the Chiefs pick up their first loss of the season. San Francisco's ramped up. They're getting sick and tired of the Chiefs beating them in the Super Bowl. They get their revenge in this game. Next week, they have Las Vegas Raiders. I do not think they are going to make the playoffs. I have them winning this game. I have the Chiefs winning this game. Then they see Tampa Bay. And I wanted to say Tampa Bay was maybe, but I don't think I can count Atlanta and Tampa Bay as both as a maybe. So I'm going to say Tampa Bay doesn't make the playoffs this year. I think Baker Mayfield hasn't had like 2 consecutive strong seasons in his entire career in the NFL. And so I'm picking Tampa Bay to not make the playoffs in 2024. And I believe the Chiefs will win this game versus Tampa Bay. Moving on to Denver. I do not think Denver will make the playoffs, although Bo Nix has shown some things in preseason. Looks like he might be a little bit better of a pick than some of us initially thought. But I do not have the Broncos winning this game versus the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs win their game versus the Broncos, their first game versus the Broncos, moving them to 8-1 to start the season. So a really strong start for the Chiefs. Next up, the Chiefs go to Buffalo. And I have Buffalo. This might surprise some of you. I don't have them as a lock to make the playoffs. I have them as a maybe. I think that, there's been some dissension in the ranks in Buffalo. They've lost a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. They're kind of really just saying, hey, Josh Allen, you figure it all out. And I do think Josh Allen is good enough to figure it all out. But, it just feels like a year where things are going to go badly for the Bills. I could be mistaken. Maybe they tie it all together and it works. But I think the Bills are a maybe to make the playoffs. And I say that because, well, first of all, you have the Miami Dolphins, who are a much improved team. They are challenging the Bills for that division. Then you have the AFC North that's stacked. The AFC South will be improved. You have the AFC West where maybe the Chargers are going to be better. And so I think that all of these things played together make it so the Bills aren't 100% a lock to make the playoffs. I have them as a maybe. And I think Kansas City goes to Buffalo, and I think they lose. So that moves the Chiefs to 8-2 to start the season. Week after that, they have Carolina. Definitely not making the playoffs. This team is one of the most defunct teams in all of the NFL for the past several years. And so I have the Chiefs winning this game handily. Then they see the Raiders for the second time. Once again, Raiders not making the playoffs in 2024. The Chiefs win that game. Then they have the Los Angeles Chargers at home. Once again, I think the Chargers might make the playoffs. And this one I have the Chiefs losing. So it seems like the Chiefs have been splitting games with the Chargers. They always play them tough. And I have the Chiefs losing this game versus the Chargers. Then they see Cleveland. Cleveland I also has a maybe, and I think the Chiefs win this game. Then they have Houston. I have Houston as a lock to make the playoffs. I saw enough from C.J. Stroud last year. They have a ton of weapons on offense. This is going to be a team that's much better, and I have the Chiefs losing this game versus Houston at the end of the year. Then they see Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, it doesn't matter who's starting at quarterback. They are always going to be a maybe to make the playoffs because Mike Tomlin is always going to have that team having a 500 record or a winning record. So they're always going to be a potential team to make the playoffs as long as Mike Tomlin is the coach there. One of the best coaches in all the NFL, in my opinion. But I have the Chiefs winning this game. And then the last game of the season versus Denver. Once again, Broncos not making the playoffs. And I have the Chiefs winning this game to finish their regular season with a 13-4 record. Let me know down in the comments whether or not you think that 13-4 record is a good prediction for the Chiefs, or if you think it's off base. You have them going 12-5, 11-6, 14-3 maybe, or how about a delicious 17-0? What do you think about that? Let me know down in the comments. And for all of you that stuck around this long in the video, I want to say I appreciate each and every one of you. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, so if you could hit that subscribe button, we would really appreciate it. And then also make sure you like the video because the like button helps share this content with other Chiefs fans who may be interested in seeing, Chiefs content on YouTube. So we really appreciate all of you for commenting, for liking the videos, and for subscribing. Got nothing but love for all of you. It was an awesome, week 2 preseason game. It was good to see several players kind of stand out. Look like they're going to be solid pieces for this team moving forward. But this is Gary signing out. Y'all have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.